Welcome back to the PTSD Princess Podcast. I'm Jerica Rose, your host. I survived homelessness, sexual and verbal abuse. I'm here to guide you through your healing, growth, and reclaiming your self-love. So let's dive in. Welcome back to the PTSD Princess Podcast. I'm Jerica Rose, your host, and today I have Savannah. I met her through Instagram, and she's just so adorable. And we're going to get into like a little bit of her life and her motherhood. So, yes, you want to do an intro background about yourself?
So, my name is Savannah. I am a skills coach. I am an advocate. But more recently, I've been diving into writing. I put author on my list of things as I wrote a little ebook, so that's exciting. And diving more into the creative spaces, just learning about my neurodivergence led me to learn that I need to play, I need to create, I need to lean into that stuff a lot more, and I really wasn't taking time for it. So my current identity or state is Midwest mother who is crafting on the internet and sharing helpful information and really connecting neurodivergent entrepreneurs as well as a big part of what I've been up to and what I'm interested in.
Yeah. And I love that because I didn't know much about the how do you say it? Neurodivergent?
Neurodivergent.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that. And like, until I found you and like you're educating me, you know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
that's beautiful. That's
I'm
beautiful.
trying to jump in the middle, right? All women deserve to know about if they might have ADHD or autism, but in order to educate people about that, I have to show up in motherhood spaces, chronic health spaces, addiction spaces, education, school spaces. I just am kind of on the edge, trying to connect people to let them know, like, people are talking about it. Because I don't know if you notice on Instagram, your feed is yours. Mine looks vastly different. I have 3 accounts as I have a couple business pages I assist with, and those pages, the trending pages, are all vastly different. So it's not easy for everybody to jump online and find information or education on ADHD, autism, whatever. And so that's what I'm kind of showing up in the middle because nobody's searching for it. We don't know we need to search for it until we crash. And I'm trying to find people before the crash, ideally.
Yeah. Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, like, I didn't really know what PTSD was until I had to get, like sit down with somebody and inform me. So it's always good to have those insights and those resources. So that's good. Yeah.
Yes.
And speaking of crafting, yes, you be crafting. I'll be seeing your YouTube. Oh my God. So is there anything mainly you're working on right now?
I've been painting a little bit more, but I don't actually have like a plan with anything that I paint. Painting is probably my most purely like fun, throw it away kind of activity. Like I don't have any intention to place those things always. But I really want to get into, like, I have a lot of notebooks, but I don't have a lot of notebooks anymore that are like scrapbook pages themselves where you cut out, little like news clippings from the day, or like you go see a movie and you save the ticket. I used to do a lot of that, like save little things and put them in a notebook. And I think I'd like to get into not a gratitude journal, but just a more like live journal, just like more stuff going in it than just words, like art journal kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when I started journaling too, I was like, ooh, I like stickers. So it's like,
Me too.
like I love me some stickers and those planning. It's just like everything looks so, girly.
Satisfying. It feels good.
Yeah, it does. It does. So you do have a kid, and I'll be seeing her. So what is life for you like now with her?
Well, I stopped even counting the months perfectly. 14 months. She's just over a year. So we've just surpassed the first year, which I think is always the most difficult in some ways, but just like lessons learned. Like I knew I needed to care for my child, but I learned a lot of different things that I did not expect to learn in that year. Especially just like managing our household and or my mental load more so, right? Of breastfeeding and taking medication, like just doing all the things, like mentally, you have a lot more clocks. I didn't plan for all the clocks of motherhood. I planned for caring for the baby. And I also was big on, in my first 6 months, I tracked really avidly in the apps, like sleep times, feeding times, if medication happened, diapers, I tracked it. Because How do you know when a doctor asks you? You don't have to know. You don't have to know a number. But I was really on top of that. It's sort of right before around the time I started figuring out I had ADHD and was crashing hard. I decided to stop using the apps because I had the realization, like, what am I tracking? Her life? Like, she eats every day, she sleeps every day.
Yeah.
She's like, there's nothing to, like, I was creating a worry I didn't need to. And so part of what I want to do now is even just let moms know, like, you shouldn't do everything forever. Like, I know it feels good to hold on, but those apps might not help you anymore. They might be a mental drain. And trying to figure out what things fueled me versus what was just like an extra mental load that I could let go of. So in my daughter's, like, once she was 8 months or so, was when I started really figuring out what was going on in my head and understanding ADHD was my first awakening. But reading and understanding all of this and starting to make sense of the struggles I was having, hormones make it worse. So when you get to your 6 to 8 month mark post baby, your hormones are crazy anyway. And so I had people kind of dismissing me, saying, well, it's not ADHD or autism. Are you sure it's anything like that? I mean, it's just postpartum. And I'm like, I really don't feel that it is. I've talked to people about postpartum, and it just is not quite that. A lot of my anxieties and stuff were related to when I left my daughter, like how much time I was away from her, thinking of needing to get back to feed. Like, my brain and worries were things I didn't prepare for. And so I think motherhood was my lesson that I was running really fast and I didn't have to run. It was better to slow down, trying to take it slow. Obviously, I have a lot of ideas, but trying to figure out how to better use my energy so that I'm not actually draining myself. Because for my first, how long? 7, 8 years in the workplace, my first like professional path was 100% for my employer. And I don't know why. I'm just very loyal to whoever I show up to. But we exist outside of our employer, and I should have been doing more for myself. And I just didn't understand that for a long time.
Yeah. 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 And I battled that too, but it was mainly with my second one. Like my first one, I was like, oh, okay, I'm still
We're
good.
going.
Thing was, different with my first one, but my second one, she made me slow down, and it's just like, what are we doing, girl? Like, you need to take care of yourself first. Because she's also watching you. So it's like, why are you so clingy? Like, just let it go. And
Do
when
you
there's,
ever think about that when you're on your phone? Like how much they see you look at your phone?
yeah, yeah.
I
And then,
think about that one a lot. Like,
yeah,
I don't want them to even see me doing it, but it's not that bad. But I'm like, don't look at me.
right. And then her dad had ended up buying her a mini phone. I'm just like,
I bet she loves it.
yeah, yeah. So that's good you mentioned that because slowing down is a lot of work when you're just always on go, go, go. So,
Well, and you feel like it's not really an option. It's like I gotta hustle for a reason. I'm not just doing it for fun. Like, I have things to take care of. But
right.
just realizing that there's a lot of ways to make money in the world, and there's a lot of things to try. So if wherever you've been, if it's not worked, consider trying something, putting it out there. Just like kind of like you starting a podcast, just start doing what it is you want to be, and you're that.
Right. Yeah. Dibbling, dabbling, for good reasons.
Yes.
Because I want to be able to show my daughter something like that I've created, pass it down. So, yeah, yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
any challenges that you faced that you mentioned that you went through or that you got through?
My biggest challenge in motherhood was, I'm going to say, like a mix. I'm going to say sensory experience. So much grossness. So much grossness. It's just like never ending grossness that emits from you, and has to, because you grew a whole human. But that whole process, for being somebody who's autistic, I just have a bit of a like major ick to certain types of slime and goo. And so postpartum early phases were just like, oh, you just gotta make it. You just gotta make it. And you accept all of the help in the world. If you're not a helper person, you don't like people being in your house, get over it. Get people in your house, have them clean everything, do all of the laundry. Just accept it. You want it. You do. I promise. My other would be, I didn't know how bad my memory was. ADHD and autism impact your working memory, but hormones with those things made me like question my sanity and like not remember conversations. And I was like really taken aback as to like, am I okay? Like, what is happening to my brain? And that kind of brain fog or memory loss, it was not permanent. It's just like some days were really foggy and they got better. But there were some really intense, and this is kind of a burnout phase too, right? I went back to work 2 months after having my daughter. I onboarded 3 new employees right away, like boom, 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 and had whole organizational shift structure. And it was just like, I didn't have an HR team. I am tired. I'm
Wow.
doing my job, client work, HR. Like, what am I doing here?
So you went back into like workforce, like clocking in somewhere.
Yeah, I was working for a nonprofit. I was a senior director there still in motherhood. So my first until last December. So I stayed there pretty much a year after my child and then left. I resigned at the end of 2024. Yep.
Wow. So do you miss it?
No,
No, no.
no, because I mean, really now I get to do what I literally even said this is a client population I want to connect with. There are women with disabilities that need more help and specific supports that there's nothing for. And so now I get to work with neurodivergent women on creating the specific supports that they need that don't exist otherwise. So it's kind of like for a long time, I felt like I did really good work, but I didn't know where my career was headed. Like I was a senior director. What else am I going to do? And that just kind of got me feeling complacent, but I was really good at it. I just never imagined where my skill set could be used because I literally didn't feel like I was good at anything until I realized I was neurodivergent. I wrote out all my strengths and I was like, I could probably run something. I could go manage a store. I could go do contract work. I could maybe start a business. I could work part time at a store or coffee shop. Like, I mean, I was doing okay, but I wasn't making that much money. It was still a nonprofit. It was never going to be getting me anywhere that I needed to go. And I kept getting minor raises, but like I mean, I go from here to here. I was making raises steadily, but I was never making that much money. And so diversifying and just getting out of this is what I need to do. It was like, oh, I'm capable of trying to do a lot more stuff. Let's go for it.
Right.
Why?
I love that. I love that. Because it's a big jump, you know? And a lot of people don't want to talk about that type of motherhood when you have to
Well,
make changes, you know?
you know, you ask people, do you stay at your job after you have your baby? There's a reason most people leave that year after. And it's
Yeah.
not just childcare. I think it really is how employers handle tasks and responsibilities and all of that kind of stuff around it. You can have a leave policy, but maternity is so much more than the birth or a couple of months. It's just a lot of things. So I was actually 100% transparent with my boss. I told her from the beginning, like, I think it might be ADHD. I'm getting tested for this. I think I might have this, or I'm put in a line for this longer testing. This is what I wait. I gave them so much information. And now in retrospect, I'm like, should I have been so honest? I don't know.
Maybe
Maybe not.
elsewhere. That's cool,
Those
man.
aren't the reasons that I chose to leave. I just kind of am thinking like, I mean, you don't have to be that transparent with your boss or your employer. If you're going through an awakening of figuring out, I have ADHD and I'm struggling, or I'm autistic and I'm struggling, whoever you tell is up to you. And it's kind of a mixed bag right now with how employers might respond to that or if they even understand what that means. So I think it's good to think about what we share about ourselves and not always feel like we have to validate why we say no or why we needed this or that. Like, there were times I should have just said I'm taking a PTO day, and I elaborate because I work really hard. I want people to know I would work if I could, and I can't right now. I am an oversharer, and I didn't understand the ways I was oversharing until I started to understand even just ADHD in women helped me understand that like my working memory sucks. I jump in because I'm forgetting, but I want to look like I'm paying attention, but
You're not
things,
really.
things get mixed around. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of that, because I worked up until I was 8 months, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. But then they're like, oh, you can't get maternity leave, and
Oh,
all
really?
this other stuff. Yeah, it was horrible. So, I just didn't even go back. And,
Yeah, I wouldn't.
we made it work. And then, further on down the line, I got back into retail and I'm like, my skills, like I got these skills, I just want to take it somewhere else, build a
Yeah.
business, just connect with different women and just see how I can really blow this up. So it's just like, I like working, but I don't like working for the people. It's just, it's weird, but
Well,
you know,
it's kind of a mix of like what mental strain you have. Like, is when you work in retail like socially rewarding sometimes, or do you leave there like, I hate people, never gonna talk again? Because
it,
some environments I enjoy and some I'm like, this is not my space. This is not for me. I should not be here.
right. But majority of the time, like I love retail. Like I like sales, I like all that stuff. So that's why I got into network marketing and went from there. So I decided to just go full force and then turn into podcast. So yeah, yeah, God has been moving me. So yes, is there another tip or tool you like to share for inspiration?
I mentioned at the beginning, I did put together a brief ebook. It's only about 15 pages or so. I'll be making a little update to it as well, but the 15 pages is really an idea of it's a lot of information in very mini snippets. It's not super detailed because I think talking is the most valuable. Even just talking with friends, family members, partners, talking is a really good emotional processing tool for anybody. But the book is really to try to get people to think, you know what makes you happy.
Right.
You're going to choose the best job for you. Your mom's not. Or, like your doctor's not an all knowing source. They don't just always know you well, even, or understand what you're bringing to them. Like, I've had to educate a lot of my doctors, or even with my back issues, they'd say, like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, sir, I'm coming here to say, what can you do? What do you mean what I want? I don't know. And so I think there's this idea that everybody else is better when you actually know yourself the most fully. And if you've become disconnected from that, which I did, there are ways back. And traditional therapy is one option. I pursue or chose coaching. I had my own ADHD coach who was also autistic. And there really wasn't advertising on skills coaching or personal coaching for women with autism. ADHD coaching kind of exists, but it's a little convoluted, I'll be honest. There are some very large institutions that run it, get people certified, and then it's hit or miss if they ever make money off of anything that they just train for. They don't have, it's a good idea, but it's limited in what they can do. And so I thought ADHD coaching was super helpful, but it misses so much of the sensory experience of autism. And so the book or my website on the homepage has a little sensory search activity, which I will make prettier one day, but it is what it is. It just brings you through each of your senses. What are you seeing, hearing, touching? All of these things that make you feel really good. And what are those things that make you say, ah, no, ah? Because if you don't know, then you might be getting really perturbed, really angst throughout the day and say, oh, I shouldn't have brushed my teeth and then done the dishes and then this, because those were all things I hated. I needed to sandwich in a little Netflix or my favorite music or something, because if you just do what you have to do, it feels like a huge drag and I can't always make it through to even the next thing. I get paused and then energy goes away. And so I've had to learn how to better build my momentum. And I don't know how to summarize all these things super concisely, but that's what the ebook is living presently in the moment, being happy, but connecting a little bit. I'm not a huge meditator, but I do believe and know that the act of slowing down anything you do helps with relieving anxiety. So when I learned slowing stuff down itself is a tool, I laughed because when I brush my teeth, I brush my teeth so fast. I don't know why. But there's just things that I do that now I'm looking at myself and saying, like, hey, girl, like, don't hold all that tension in your shoulders, release your hands and You don't have to move that fast. There's nothing you're missing. Because I just know now that I have a bad memory and I have poor perception of time. So I'm never going to feel super on it, but I know I have tools in place that keep me where I need to go.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. So we want to link all of those in the show
Yes.
notes,
I
all
will send you a nice link that gives you all of them more perfectly laid out because I show up a little bit everywhere. I know you're on YouTube as well. I'm trying to get more people to share on YouTube because I think it's a good space that's not as convoluted. It's easier to find stuff on YouTube, but definitely present on Instagram. And I have a Facebook. I'm not posting a lot there. I just want people to know who the real me is and to come find me if they need me.
Yes, that was good. That was good. So we're going to keep that short and spicy. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Savannah, for showing up. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Thank you.